On behalf of the entire Asian American group, I'd like to thank you, both of you, for coming out this afternoon to join us for our, well, technically it's our primary endorsement interview process, but for the two of you, it is our general. To my right is Cynthia Leung. To my left is Yvette Chevalier. Is that how you pronounce it?
Right.
Yvette Chevalier, and they are both running for a Municipal Court 1 in the city of Las Vegas. Just by way of introduction, the Asian American group has been in existence for approximately 20 or so years. Mike has been the president. Mike Viswani, the gentleman to my left, has been the president of AAG for approximately the last decade and a half or so. Just a decade, only a decade. For the past 7 years, AAG has been conducting panel-style interviews in conjunction with its endorsement process. So again, thank you very much for taking time out of this gorgeous afternoon to sit indoors and be with us today. First question that we're asking, let me back up. I had spoken about this off camera. We'll be releasing our endorsements probably about a week from now. We will need to do a makeup day for other races where all of the individuals could not be present for whatever reasons. That's probably going to occur sometime in the middle of next week, but as the two of you are the only two in this particular race, it won't affect you. When we release our endorsements, not only will we inform both of all of the individuals who are on our mailing list, but what we'll also be doing is taking out ad space in some local Asian periodicals just throughout the valley, and essentially putting our slate card into that newspaper, encouraging voters to come out and either early vote starting the 21st of March, or on the primary, which effectively is your general, on April 7th. So we do try and get your name out there in the community as best as possible. That having been said, the first question that we're asking in all of our interviews is this, and we'll start with Cynthia and move to Yvette. Cynthia, why have you decided to run for this particular race at this particular time? And obviously, Yvette, you'll have an opportunity to answer that question as well.
Well, thank you, John. I am running for re-election. I am the sitting judge and have been in Las Vegas Municipal Court Department 1 for the last 7 years. It has been my honor and privilege to serve the community of the city of Las Vegas, and that has been my career. I have had a career in public service. I was originally appointed in 2008 by the City Council, and I ran for election in 2009. Prior to that, I was a prosecutor in the City Attorney's Office for 9 years, as well as prior to that, a criminal defense attorney when I first moved here in 1997. I had a chance to look at my high school yearbook photo, and what I had written down next to it was that I wanted to be a public servant. I chose a career and had that in mind from the very beginning, and that is why I went to law school. And so in the last 7 years as the sitting judge, I have served as the chief judge as well as the president of the Nevada Judges of Limited Jurisdiction, which is a statewide organization of all the judges at my level and the Justice of the Peace level. And so I feel that I do a good job. I know that I am a fair and impartial judge. And with city court, you really are dealing with a lot of the public and people who have come in for the very first time. And I am cognizant that everyone who comes into my courtroom should be treated with dignity and fairness. And due process is obviously of the utmost concern. I also feel that at this level, the municipal court level, I've made a tremendous impact in the community with the specialty drug court program that I run called Women in Need of Change. And this is an alternative program that addresses women who have amassed a number of arrests for prostitution, drugs, and theft-related issues that are part of that proverbial revolving door recidivism that we see in the city. And this program, which I have had since 2008, I'm proud to say now has 23 graduates. And our latest graduate, which we had last week, is a woman of 50 years old who has spent the last 30 years in a life of crime, prostitution, and drug addiction. And through this program, and of course I don't do this alone, I work with an entire team as well as partners in the community to make the program successful. But what it does is it really teaches these women that they matter, that they have self-esteem, and how do they reconnect with that when they've had a lifetime of abuse and drug addiction. So I love my job. I am running for re-election because I know that I have the qualifications, the education, the experience, and the background for it, and I believe that I have a very good reputation amongst my peers as well as in the community.
And Yvette, before I give you a chance to answer, I need to say something. I've known Cynthia as a prosecutor and as a judge because I'm a criminal defense attorney, have been primarily for the last 15 years or so. So I just want both of you to know this. I do have a handful of active cases in front of Cynthia's department. In those situations, what we've historically done for AAG, just to avoid the appearance of impropriety, I will moderate the question and answer session, the panel interview session. However, I do not take part in the actual deliberations regarding the endorsement process. It's just more fair for everybody involved that way, but I wanted you to be aware of that fact, as well as Cynthia, to both be aware of that fact. I'm going to, because I love the sound of my own voice, I'll be doing a lot of the questioning here, but I will, at that point in time, happily leave the room and go, have a Coke and a smile while they deliberate the actual endorsements once we get to that point in time.
Very good.
Okay? But please, Yvette, why did you decide to run for this race at this time?
Thanks for sharing that information. It sounds very fair. So now I'm approaching 25 years of public service experience in the state of Nevada. Not all as a lawyer. My public service is in the form of 15 years of public education experience working with substance abuse prevention and student intervention and counseling children and family in need, mostly regarding domestic violence victims and immigration, folks involved in immigration dilemmas and special education and conduct disorder children. So working in special programs for alternative sentencing for juveniles and such along those lines. So I did that. I also worked in a supervisory capacity for the state mental health program where I was the program supervisor for the mentally ill felons. So I worked with the criminal system in helping to bridge that gap in competency issues for defendants who have mental illness issues, who are not competent to stand trial or to help in their own defense. So I've been involved in that. Also, I was involved in drafting the policies and procedures for the district court mental health case management portion of the mental health court process at Clark County District Court. That was part of my role when I worked for the state Southern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services. As well, I worked in compliance for Clark County in a management position where I investigated licensing violations for people that had mental health treatment homes, facilities for disabled persons, foster care licensing facilities, hospitals, and treatment centers. And I was the manager over like 88 people that did foster care, child protection work, and that sort of stuff. So then as a lawyer, I started my law career in 2003. I worked as an assistant prosecutor for an Indian tribe, and they basically adopted the Nevada, Nevada revised statutes in for the most part. So the very same laws that I would be using now are the laws that we used in those courtrooms for the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe. And then I worked as an attorney for another tribe, as a city attorney, where we did criminal and health-related matters, social service, senior services, as basically the city attorney defending the council, if you might, like a government, small government. And then I have been a private business owner where I do my own thing as a lawyer, as you might be yourself, just taking customers, and I've done everything from RICO cases to DUIs to DVs to business contracts, commercial contracts. I have a really strong interest in code enforcement and business law, but I've also done lots of criminal-related matters as well. So for me, being a judge is like the accumulation of a lifetime of experiences all into the perfect job. I also always wanted to be a judge, and like Judge Leung, I've had that helping profession bugging me since the time I was 8 years old. I've been serving other people. I used to walk a one-armed lady's dog when I was 8, so I've always been in some sort of a helping role. I've done a lot of things in the community to help. I was on the board of SafeNest for the TITC domestic violence. I was on the state welfare board for 8 years, serving the people that take temporary assistance for needy families, Medicare, Medicaid, all of those kinds of programs that reach out to the community. And for me, being a judge is the ideal job. I can use my helping skills to solve problems, and I can also use my criminal defense and my prosecution skills to uphold the law. And so that's why I'm running for judge. It's got nothing to do with Judge Leung and everything to do with me finding the right position to bring all my career experiences into the public sector and to do basically the work that I was brought into this world to do, so to speak.
Well, in both of your initial answers, or responses, I should say, both you and Cynthia had referenced the existence of specialty courts in your history or currently in your current job. Assuming you are elected, Yvette, what type of specialty court would you like to see either expanded or implemented within the municipal court system? And obviously, Cynthia will have a chance to respond to that same question.
Well, I think that they all could use more seats for people. We are a growing community, and whether it's the prostitution prevention or women in need of change court for substance abuse and prostitution behaviors, I really think the work program would be ideal to expand, because often we give citations to people who have no job, who can't afford them, who then go to warrant, who then come back, who then are in jail and cost the taxpayers money, and then, you know, it's a vicious cycle, it's a revolving door. But if we had a very concrete work program for people that are working off their citation, not just community service, but actually a job-related program that will give them skills that they can then transfer into viable employment, we might be able to reduce some of the revolving door that goes on in especially municipal and justice court. I mean, once they escalate to district court, it's a lot more difficult to work, out of sentencing issues. But in this level, the lowest level of criminality being the misdemeanor court, there's a lot that can be done to give people a chance to work off. And I think through work programs and just making more seats available in mental health and drug treatment courts, that would help. I think that funding is always an issue, but somehow being resourceful and filling those seats when people stop going, and so that they're not just numbers on a roster. There's people that start something and they don't finish it, they're taking up a seat from somebody else. So perhaps making sure that the attendance is very tight in those programs, so that when people drop out, they don't go for 30 days, a new person can fill that seat rather than lingering an empty seat for 6 months.
Okay. Cynthia, what specialty courts do you want to see implemented or expanded?
Well, there's a couple of things I would like to address in what Ms. Chevalier had said. But to answer your question directly first, what we are currently working on now is a mental health court. We have DUI court, we have the women in need court, we have a youth offender drug court, we have a habitual offender drug court, as well as a serious traffic offender, and we have a veterans court. Our veterans court is technically not funded, though we have diverted staff in order to make it fully staffed. And mental health court is a huge issue. These are the cases that we see every single day in the downtown area, in the distressed areas. You wonder why we have as many trespassings and disturbing the peace, quality of life issues that directly affect our businesses and our quality of life. And so, funding is definitely always an issue, but we are currently working to try to create that, and also to keep the existing programs thriving. In no way do people wait in our programs. In no way do people linger and not fill those positions. Some of the time we are full, because with the resources that we have, and we are grant funded, as well as we receive funding from the Administrative Office of the Supreme Court, that's how we fund ourselves, as well as through the defendant participation. They also give back by paying some of their way, and of course donations. But we are cognizant as a fiscally responsible court that nobody languishes. There's nobody waiting or not performing as they should in the program. So I would love to see that happen. There are a lot of things that we can't control with our budget, but we are as a whole a very proactive court. And I think we understand the nature of the community that we serve, and the drug court programs, we know that they work. And so it would be wonderful for us to remain thriving in the programs that we do have, but expanding a mental health court as well.
Cynthia, in the past few years, fines for things like traffic infractions and things of that nature have gone up in many municipalities, the city, the county, North Las Vegas, I mean throughout the whole valley and probably throughout the country in general. And obviously that coincides with an overall economic downturn as a whole. Do you feel that it is somewhat problematic, however, to increase the fines in the manner in which they have, which almost operates as sort of a regressive tax on citizens who commit things like jaywalking or traffic violations, the most petty of crimes that one could possibly encounter on a regular basis?
Yes, well, that's the tension. I mean, I am not a legislator, I am not a lawmaker. The fines that we come up with are not something that are plucked out of thin air. There is research that goes into it, commensurate with jurisdictions that are of our size, related to the other cities in Clark County nearby. And also, I think that at the time that the initial thought process was to change the fines, other states like Arizona and California and the nature of their jurisdictions were also looked at. We have an interesting population here as well, in that some of it is transient and moving. And so we're really trying to be a solvent court and a solvent city. But at the same time, we certainly do not run a debtor's court. That is why we have programs like community service and work program as alternatives. And every judge has the discretion to evaluate an individual on a case-by-case basis to see this is what the standard fine is, and what does this individual bring to the table. If they have medical reasons, if they can't work, if they're on disability, those are all factors that would be taken into account to provide someone an alternative way to be held accountable for those types of petty crimes. So it is a tension, but all of us have felt the recession. Municipal court actually operates at 25% less employees than prior to, and so it affects all of us. So I would say we're sensitive to the premise of your question and try to look at things on an individual basis.
Yvette.
I agree with Judge Leung's analysis, but would also add that, again, judges don't make legislation and are not supposed to make new laws from the bench. So the laws that are provided is what the judiciary needs to enforce, and that's very important for fair and impartial court operations. But I also think that with the jaywalking question, that because we've had, and don't quote me on the number, 25 to 30 people killed by walking, across a road in the wrong location, that it's being used as a way to re-educate the public on the importance of, using the lights and using walkways and watching what they're doing, because the amount of people that are dying by walking in the middle of the streets is really remarkable. So I think that from that perspective, that even though jaywalking seems like a very petty crime, it's especially if it were people teaching children to jaywalk, that we're doing a really big disservice to educating young people and just the population at large about safety, and that our job as jurists and as lawyers and as citizens is to keep the community safe. So I would say that I would be kind of tough on that, because I feel horrible when I read so often that people are being run over, killed, smashed, and they're just jaywalking. And so something so simple can end in something so tragic. But I mean, as far as the maximum penalties, I agree that we need to look at the individual's ability to pay, because simply giving a fine to someone who's homeless and jobless and resourcelessness is simply going to bring them back on a warrant with a bigger fine, and it's a rotating, escalating situation. So I think looking at a true financial statement of the person before you and their ability to pay is helpful within the limited amount of time that a municipal court judge has to look at individual factors for each defendant. But that's important, because there's no sense to just fining someone when they can't pay. There has to be a way to earn it, or payment systems, or a methodology to help them achieve. It's like case planning for people for failure if you don't find the means to get them there.
So are you suggesting more of almost a sliding scale approach based on a person's income level, or is that something you would assess on a case-by-case basis?
Well, again, like Judge Leung said, there's an administrative fee that's set, and you have to implement that fee as part of being a employee of the city. That's what you're directed to implement by the council and code. There's minimum fees set, but I do think that you can work partial work program, partial payment, and to be able to work with the person, not necessarily give them less of a fine than, let's say, yourself for the same incident, but give them a different mechanism for a manner in which to fulfill the payment.
Thank you. And I just wanted to follow up on that. Just I wasn't positive where you were going with your assessment. So thank you. Anyone else want to jump in? I know I usually handle the judicial ones, just because I have the pleasure of being in front of judges all the time. And all of you guys are intimidated by the two of them, and I don't have that problem. At least not right now.
Great, John.
Next question, we'll start with Yvette and then go to Cynthia again. Yvette, what do you see from your experience in municipal courts and other courts of similar jurisdiction? What do you see as the single greatest area of improvement that needs to be addressed? And assuming you're elected, how do you plan on addressing it?
For myself, here as a local resident of Las Vegas, a 24-hour town, 7 days a week kind of town, I believe that a need that we have had for a long time is to operate a 1 or 2 night a week court. I'm not sure that the council would support that, so I'm basically suggesting that I see that as an improvement. I've not checked with any council people on their position on that, or the feasibility. I don't believe it would cost additional money, because you have your resources in the day and you could shift them to later in the day and move them into the evening. So what I would envision is that we have hundreds of thousands of people working 3 shifts in Las Vegas, swing and graveyard and days, and that many people have to miss a full day of work to come in and deal with a citation for a traffic violation or a speeding ticket, or whatever the case may be, some misdemeanor citation, and that it would be more cost effective for our community as a whole if we offered those people who have the work schedule issues a chance to come in the evening and address their citation. So to me, if we operated our courts more commensurate with the work schedules of our community, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week town, and kept that in mind, we would save families money because they wouldn't have to lose a day of wages. We would save casinos from having to pay, substitute laborers. We would really make a difference. We would help children not lose food off their table by having to miss a day of work and their parents have to take a cut in wages that day. And we would help people who are on probation and are not really in a position to take leave from a new job. to come in and deal with some sort of a minor infraction. So that's what I think would be very useful. And I, as being a night bird, would be willing to offer that service at night because I like staying up late.
Well, we appreciate you waking up early and joining us today,
Thank
Diane.
you.
Cynthia.
Yes, actually, for many years, Las Vegas Municipal Court had a night court. What happened is it became fiscally irresponsible for us to continue because, in fact, it does cost. It costs overtime. And you have to staff it. You can't just be sitting there. You have to have the full staff to run everything. You need to have a marshal present. So I think we were certainly cognizant of this being a 24-hour town, but we are a fiscally responsible court, and it became cost prohibitive to try to do that, and ultimately irresponsible to the citizens to run a court without being solvent. You know, having said that, we've also done other things in the court. We used to have a 5-day opening where the counter was available on Fridays, and we also had to cut back on that, also making us more efficient for the 410s that we are open Monday through Thursday. So it is an idea that we have already explored, and unfortunately there are fiscal reasons why we could not do that. As far as to answer your question, one of the things that we are always striving to do and continue to strive to do in the city of Las Vegas is to make things streamlined, efficient, and accessible for the public. So from an administrative standpoint, we are trying to move towards being more paperless. We are trying to move our computer system to be more efficient so that people don't have to wait as long. We look into things such as kiosks and web ability for bondsmen, attorneys to look up their cases. Things like that make the process a lot faster, and we're always cognizant of how we can do that so that when we are in the courtroom, we are focused and doing our jobs, you know, and making sure that constitutional due process is afforded to everybody. So in answering your question, I would point to things that are more of an administrative nature, but that's also because, you know, I do understand the full picture of how we work within the city government as well as being the third branch of government.
Well, we are right at our time limit. So again, I thank you both for taking time out of what is appearing to be a gorgeous Saturday afternoon to join us in this nice air-conditioned space. As I stated earlier, we should be getting our endorsement out probably within the next week or so, and we'll definitely keep you guys in the loop with respect to our decision.
Very good.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank